So today we're going to be talking about the TDI, or the Traders Dynamic Index, right? So this is usually a known indicator among those who trade BTMM, but as for me, I don't want you to stick on the fact that it's for BTMM and stuff and all that, but what we have to focus on is how are we going to be using it to get our entries, how are we going to use it to make money this year. Anyway, it's been a while. How are your holidays? Tell me in the comment section down below, and are you ready to make 2025 your year? So let's jump into it. So I posted a video about why the Payapa strategy doesn't work anymore, or why this Payapa strategy doesn't even work to begin with, right? And in the video I shared a bunch of strategies, and I told you guys to choose which one you'd want me to share more on first. So there's a guy who said we should do the TDI. A shout out to you for commenting in the comment section. So I'm just going to be browsing through some topics today, right? And in the comment section again, you can comment which topic you want me to go further on, so that you'll be able to master the TDI in order to make money. Because if you master this indicator, right, it's one of those indicators that gives you a head start, or so that you can predict what the market is sort of going to do, right, sometime before it. But though it's not as accurate as price action, but it is. If you are going to choose an indicator, I encourage using the TDI, because though it is complex, it takes time to learn, but we're going to be using the TDI, right? So I'm going to be discussing a few topics. I think I will leave chapters so that you can jump to the section that you want, right? Let me set it up, then we'll discuss what it is, right? So this is how we set it up, right? So we're going to go to our indicators, right? We're going to add, right? So first of all, we're going to add the RSI, right? The RSI over here, some people use 13 for the RSI, but as for me, I like to use the RSI of the period 21. Why? Because it doesn't react too quick, and it's more reliable, right? I'm not using it to scalp, by the way, so I want it to be longer, to be slower a little bit, right? So these are the levels that we're going to be setting, right? So the level 30, 50, and the 70. The 30 you can just write buy, 70 you can write sell. You can set this up any way you want to, right? And then yeah, I will leave that color. Maybe I put 2 pixels, right, so that it's visible to you guys, right? So, and then you click what? You click over here. Here we're going to be using the color for our background, which is black now, right? And we're just going to select 1 pixel and then save, right? So it's just want to see what these levels over here. That's the main thing. And we're going to be using the RSI now. We're going to be using the moving average. So on indicator window 1, right? On indicator window 1 over here, that's where we're going to press our F, right? Indicator window 1, we add a moving average, right? So now we're going to be adding the moving average of period 2, right? Method is simple. Apply to now. Take note of the apply to. The TDI can be a little bit challenging to set, so take screenshots wherever you want, wherever you can, so that you remember exactly how I set this up, right? And then over here I'm going to use green for this one, right? So you can take a screenshot, click save, indicator window again, moving average. Now we're going to be using the moving average period of 7. So this is what we're going to be using for our crossovers, right? So period 7. Then over here, the method is simple again. Apply to first indicator data, and then I'm going to be using red for this one, right? And I'm going to leave 2 pixels, then click save, right? So right now this is what our charts look like, right? But we're not yet done giving out, or we are not yet done setting up this indicator, right? But as you can see, now we already have our crossovers, right? So if you want to scalp or that, we can now use it for our entries, right? But we want to make it more reliable, so we're going to be adding the Bollinger Bands. Bollinger Bands over here, right? So over here, the Bollinger Bands, we're going to be using a period of 34, right? By the way, take screenshots, because this can be hard to remember. Then deviation, we're going to be using 1.619, right? Apply to over here, first indicator data again, right? And then we use blue. Let me use this shade of blue, right? 2 pixels, and click what? done. Then over here, as you can see, we've added our Bollinger Bands, but I want the middle Bollinger Band to be very specific. Why? Because we're going to be using this this level quite often in this case, right? So we want it to be visible, to be different from the other blue Bollinger Bands, right? So this one we are going to add a moving average, right, on the indicator window again. This one we're going to put a level of the period of 34, right? Apply to first indicator data again. Then over here, I'm just going to use yellow, right? You can use any color of your choice, by the way, right? And then you click what? You click save, right? So this is what our charts look like, right? So let me go to a larger time frame, right? So this is what our charts look like after setting up the indicator, right? So what is the TDI, right? So TDI is the traders dynamic index, right? Mainly used for Btmm traders, by Btmm traders, right? But today I'm just going to be teaching you how you can use it, how you can utilize it in order to take your entries, in order to know what the market might do, when it might happen, right? So it comprises of what? Of the RSI, moving averages, and the Bollinger Bands, right? So while now we're going to be discussing the functions of each level or each line, right? So on the TDI over here, right? So over here, the levels, as you can see, we already labeled them, right? 70, right? And and 30, right? And then the 50 is middle, right? So 50, I'm going to tell you how you use the 50 later, right? But what we can just say is whenever the green line, mainly the green line, is below the 50 level, is selling, the market is selling, right? Whenever the green line, right, that's the price line, is above the 50 level, we are buying, right? So that's just a tip, right? So you can use this for our trend also, right? So that's a pointer, right? That's how we use our levels, right? Then these Bollinger Bands over here, right? These Bollinger Bands, the upper one, the lower one, and the middle one, we're going to be using these as support and resistance for the price line, right? So these we're going to be using them as support and resistance for what? For the green line, right? But they don't quite work for the upper and the lower. They don't quite work as support and resistance as such, because sometimes they just follow along the trend, sorry, I wanted to say trend line. Price action is going into my head, right? So sometimes, as you can see over here, you can just follow along the Bollinger Band, along the price line, right? So they don't quite act as support and resistance. Why? Because they just go along with it, right? But the middle MBL, right? The middle line, the middle Bollinger Band, it's what's called the MBL market baseline, right? So this one over here now is a little bit different. It mainly works as support and resistance, right? We can get our bounces, right? So we'll be waiting for our MBL bounces, market baseline bounce. So market baseline bounce is so like after a breakout or something, right? The market comes back to the baseline and then it bounces, right? So the middle Bollinger Band usually acts as as a support or a resistance, as you can see over here, right? If the market fails to break this, it usually bounces on top of it, right? It usually bounces on the MBL, right? As you can see over here again, over here we've got a breakout of this MBL, right? Reaches to it, and as you can see right at this tip, we bounced down, right? Over here we've got a breakout to the upside, and when the price line came back to the MBL over here, we took our buys and the market bounced up, right? So this is a further confirmation of support, of price action, or it further aids when you are trading price action, right? So that's just a tip for how we use these lines, right? And then the green and the red over here, these are, the green is the price line and the red is our signal line, right? So whenever we can use them for our crossovers, and whenever they crossover, you can take our entries. Though if you wait for the crossover, you might be a little bit late. Though not quite late, your stop loss would have to be larger, okay? But you are a little bit late, right? So if you want to get that fastest entry, the quickest entry, you can just see when the green line is curving, right, so that you can take your entries, right? So that's the functions of these lines and all that stuff, right? So what can you gain from the MBL, right? So first of all, as I said, you can use this, sorry, not from the MBL, from the TDI, but first of all, we can use the TDI for determination of the trend, right? So whichever time frame you are on, right, you can use the TDI in order to see where the trend is, right? So whenever, first of all, we're going to be using the 50 level, as I mentioned before, right? So when the TDI, or the green line mainly, is below the 50 level, you know that the market is in a downtrend. As for this case over here, as you can see, this corresponding with what this over here, right? So usually when the market is in a downtrend, what the market usually does, and this is now a tip that I'm sharing with you guys since you are my friends, right? So when the market is in a downtrend, right, so whenever it comes, right, it goes lower, right, it can even pass the 30 level, right, but it usually won't break the 60 level, right? So let me just use a line over here and mark the 60 level. So let's mark the 60 level. I'm just going to mark 49, right? And then the 40 level, I'm show you the 40 level a little bit later. Yeah, so that's just about the range, right? So whenever the market is in a downtrend, right, this is a tip that I'm sharing with you guys. It's a secret, so not a secret because I'm sharing this with you, but it's quite a powerful tip, right? So listen carefully, right? So right over here, whenever the market is in a downtrend, right, whenever the market goes up, it usually doesn't break past the level 60, right? So this mainly works when you're using the RSI of period 21 over here. That's why I said you should use the RSI of period 21. So if you don't use the RSI of period 21, this might not work for you because the price line, the green line, will break past the 60 level, right? Mainly, right? It will just go up and down. But whenever we're in a downtrend, right, just know that when the market over here, it usually respects the level 40, right? Sorry, the level 60, right? So we might go up, the RSI right over the green line goes up, but whenever it reaches the level 60, right, it usually goes back down, goes up a little bit, but comes back down. And whenever you see that the 60 level has been broken, usually the market follows into an uptrend, right? So let's take this for example over here. The market came to around the 60 level, came down, 60 level, came down, and then over here it made a clear breakout, right? So over here, clear breakout, retest, it doesn't quite go that deep, right, over here, but usually the market continues going up from this instance, right? So same as for when the market is in an uptrend, right? It's giving us just a few examples, right? But let me see over here, right? So in this case over here, we are in an uptrend, right? So the market may pull back down, right? But whenever it reaches around the level 40, right, it doesn't give that breakout. It just gives a fake out, a little fake out, or it respects the level 40 exactly, right? So over here, as you can see, the market respected the level 40, right over here, respected the level 40. We can go a little bit past that. Here it was respecting the level 50. Sorry. Here it was respecting the level 50. Yeah, so the 50 also works. It's also respected most of the times, right? And over here, as you can see, the market still wants to be in an uptrend, so it's respecting the level 40, right? So that's just a tip that I'm sharing with you guys, right? So we can use it for our trend, right? And then we can also use the MBL, right, which is the yellow line in the middle, to determine the trend, right? So whenever the green line is above the yellow line, it's an uptrend, right? And whenever the green and the red are below the MBL, the yellow line, it's a downtrend, right? So it's just that simple, right? So you can have a piece of paper where you're writing some of these tips so that you remember them, and whenever you are testing them, you're backtesting, you're trying out this indicator, you remember those, right? So you can use all these tips that I've shared with you, you can use them on you can use them alongside with price action, right? So you can just set up your indicator, right, and you just remove this, right? After analyzing your price action, you can just, for further confirmation, you can just put what your indicator, and then boom, you are using the TDI just for confirmation, and you hide it again. It's not that hard. It's not that hard at all, right? So how to use this to get our entries, right? So for our entries, it's just as I was sharing with you, just from the tips that I was giving you, right? If we say that the MBL is a support or a resistance, right? So whenever the market bounces on the MBL, we take our entries. And if the 40 level and the 60 level are support and resistance levels, are strong support and resistance levels, right? So whenever we see that the market, after analyzing our price action, of course, right? Whenever we see that the market is in a downtrend, right? So over here, maybe there's a resistance, right? And the market pulls back to the what? Up until it reaches the level 60 over here. What are you going to do? Of course, we're going to sell. Or we're going to wait until we get a candlestick confirmation and you're going to sell. Right? So that's just how simply you get your entries, guys. It's just that simple, right? So that's how we can use this to get what? To get our entries, right? So yeah, I'll share more. Just comment in the comment section down below which topic you want me to go further and further into, so that you understand this much and much better, right? So I'm just giving you guys a rundown of how we can actually use this. So it's very, very simple, guys. And if you appreciate what I've shared so far, consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this video to other fellow traders, so that they can also benefit from this, right? So there are other common patterns that we find on the TDI, right? So mainly, let's start with divergence, right? So divergence, what is divergence, right? So divergence is just so like what the market is showing versus what the indicator is showing, right? So let's take this for example. I actually have a few examples over here, right? This over here, as you can see on the main chart, the candlesticks are creating what? Higher highs. And on the indicator window over here, the RSI, the green line, is showing what? Is showing lower low, right? So from this point going back to what? This point, as you can see over here, the candlesticks are showing what? Creating a higher high, and on the indicator window we're creating a lower low, right? So in this case, it's just an indication, right? It doesn't mean act that instant, right? But it's just an indication that whenever, let's say you are in your buys, right, and you see divergence, it's just an indication that you must get out of that trade whenever you see that the market conditions aren't favorable. Why? Because it shows that there might be, it's either it might be a small pullback or it can be a large pullback, right? But it just shows that sooner or later the market is going to give you a pullback, right? So you can also use that for being away, right? So this is what regular divergence, right? And then there is also what? Hidden divergence, right? So it's so like the opposite of this, right? So over here, right, the market is showing what? A higher high. The candlesticks are showing a higher high. And let's go to the indicator window. So divergence is one of those things that you have to what? You have to practice until you get to see it, right? So it's quite hard for you to spot divergence at first, but if you train your eyes to see this, right? Let me just change this color so that it's quite visible for you. I'm using purple, right? So this purple line over here, right? So as you can see over here, right, the market over here at this point is a lower low, right? It's a low, let's just say it's a low, and then on the indicator window here it shows a lower low, right? But on the main chart it showed a higher high. So in this case we buy, right? So it's, yeah, you need to get used to divergence to see what the market is going to do, right? It's a little bit hard for me to explain why in this case we buy and why in this case we sell, right? But just know that this is what we call regular divergence, right? And then this is what is called hidden divergence, right? So let me change this again to purple, so that you can take a screenshot of this so that you can see what the difference is, right? So over here, right, so using those two trend lines, right, over here, this is what regular divergence and hidden divergence on the bottom, right? So that's those are some of the patterns that usually help us when you're using the TDI house. So there are also shark fins, but I'm not going to go into that today. But yeah, and they're also not that important. But whenever, okay, it's not that important. Let's just skip it, right? But just know that, okay, let me just go a little bit into it, right? So let's say over here, as you can see, right? So whenever you see that the green line over here, right? Whenever the green line breaks out of this blue Bollinger Band, right? Know that the market is going to buy for a while, right? It shows a strong momentum. What I was going to say, meme. I don't know what I was even saying, right? But whenever we see a breakout of what the RSI breaking out of what out of the Bollinger Band, we know that the trend might go further. But why do I say it's not that important? Because some of the times you don't know how long it just shows that there's momentum, but it's not that accurate, because sooner or later you don't know when the market is going to reverse, right? So you can just maybe get one or two candles and then it reverses, the market reverses on you, or you can even hold for a while. Let's take this for example over here, right? So over here we've got a breakout over to the downside over here, but it's just showing what that momentum, right? And as you can see, if you entered there, you just got one candle at most, yeah, right? And then the market pulled back again, right? Though you could have seen that the market has lost its momentum, but still it's just boring thinking that I'm going to get a lot on this trade, but the market still reverses, right? So over here, let's take this for example over here, right? The market breaks out of the green line, breaks out of the blue Bollinger Band, right? And then as you can see, you just take one tick, right? 1 5-minute tick, and then the market spikes down, right? So that's something else to be careful about. So that's why I don't want to go into shark fins, because they are not that useful, because they're not that accurate, and I won't give you something that I personally don't even consider using, right? So that's also like just it in summary, in brief, right? So just comment in the comment section down below which topic you want me to go further on. In fact, there's a lot that I haven't even covered, but I just wanted you guys to just to have a brief understanding, a little bit pointers in what you want me to discuss more on, what you want to focus on, because I can finish this all alone, and I also have to find how I can describe it, explain to you further, so that you can understand it much and much better, right? So comment the comment section down below, and in the next video I'm also going to be showing you how you can use moving averages alongside with this TDI, so that we can get our entries, determine our trends, and all that stuff, right? So thanks for watching this video. If you like it, like, subscribe, and share the content. It helps with the algorithm, so that you can recommend this video to more and more people, so that they can also benefit if you have benefited. And so that's it for this video. Stay hard, guys.